I don't like when people just depend upon books to learn about others, right? Have that conversation with someone that doesn't look like you. Challenge yourself, right? That doesn't sound like you. Ask them about themselves. Ask them about their family. Learn. Go that step further. And don't just assume that you are the fulcrum or you are the focal point of everything. Learn about the people in your community around you, and don't wait to learn about them on the news because something tragic has happened.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of I Have Something to Say, where subject matter experts are unafraid and unapologetic about sharing their perspectives regarding issues that impact our lives. They speak up because basically they give a shit. So if you're tired of canned answers and want to finally hear real people cut through the BS and talk about real issues, this is the podcast for you. I'm your host, Sami Heyman Marrero from Urbander, and behind our mixer is our producer, Chris Majoka from UdoU.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to this final episode of 2023 of I Have Something to Say. And I wanted to really close the year focusing on human-centered leadership as we go into the new year and really trying to figure out what that is. And so, to tackle this topic, I wanted to invite our dear friend, Dr. Gary Montoute. Hi, how are you, Dr. G?
Hi, Sammy. How are you doing? Give me jazz hands right now. I'm
Yes.
honored to be here. Honored to be here. Everything is going great. Good to talk again.
Yes, absolutely. And I feel like how we met and when we met, it wasn't by chance. We have had these like deep conversations, right? And really
I don't do
about
that. You're right.
I know about humanity and about the world and social impact and diverse teams and how you're grounded in kind of IT, which for most people, right, sounds
Yes.
a little bit like sterile or mechanical, right? But
Right.
you're all about cultivating the human spirit. And so I figured, why not close the year with a big, big red bow, right? And have you on as a guest. And thank you, because I know you're very busy,
Right.
running your huge team, you know? And
Thank you.
and so
Thank
I
you.
appreciate this time with you. How are you?
Doing well. Doing well. As you said, we're getting prepared for this weekend. We celebrate Christmas. So getting Christmas hasn't started until you've watched your first Christmas movie. So that occurred for my family last weekend. So I'm really, really happy about that. So finally, we feel it. We're ready. The last light went up on the bushes last night. So I'm ready to go.
That's fantastic. And so tell us all a little bit about your background, right? Your studies, your pursuits, and your passions. So that way, that could kind of like anchor the conversation about human-centered leadership that we're about to have.
Absolutely, and again, thanks again. So my background, I'm you would say born in New Jersey, right? But I grew up in the island of Trinidad in the Caribbean. So right off the bat, very multicultural environment, right? Every culture was celebrated, every type of person was celebrated, truly diverse environment. Then I came over here to the United States to attend University of South Florida, and I've always wanted to be in healthcare. I always wanted to be a doctor, but then I realized I couldn't dissect and like blood. So eventually, I ended up in the healthcare space as basically what I've done all my life, IT and service management and stuff like that, right? So for the most part, my passion has always been people, and I tend to go towards cultures and towards companies whereby I can really work directly with people, and where sometimes IT, to your word, where IT might seem a bit sterile in your own world. I like to liaison with people a lot, whether it's with business and IT or even the people within the IT team, and help them develop. And my journey basically has gone through, from a business degree into a, a master's in IT to lately a doctorate in healthcare administration. So that's been my journey for the most part. I've managed global teams. And I've managed nearshore, onshore, but always in a service environment perspective.
Yes, yes, and you handle very multicultural, multilingual teams, right? That come from very diverse backgrounds. We're based here out of the US, right? Some more assimilated or acculturated than others. So out of the Florida community that really needs to connect in their native languages
Yeah.
and build that trust, right? And
Yes.
so how do you go about, right, creating these multicultural spaces that really make an impact?
You see, I think today is we live in the best time ever, to be honest. You can remember 20, 30 years ago, you basically had to hide your culture, hide who you were. You had to assimilate to what the dominant culture was. Now, it's all about authenticity. And what does that mean? It means that I get to celebrate your Cuban heritage. I get to celebrate your Mexican heritage. I get to celebrate your Indian heritage or whatever it is, and there's a place for that, and companies are now opening up their doors to be able to allow that. And I try to lead from the front, right? Being a very diverse background myself, I have the Castilian background, I have the French background, and oh, by the way, the English that I speak is what we call the Queen's English, right? Very different from American English. So I tend to lead from the front in whatever situation I'm in. People look just like when Tiger Woods came out, right? You didn't know that African Americans wanted to or could play golf, and then you saw it, and then people in school was like, you know what, I could do that. I always wanted to do that, right? Before the Williams sisters, right? We had Arthur Ashe back in the day, one here and there, but there were people playing all over the place. We just needed the exposure, right? And I think with the day and age that we have now with social media and access, we see more people who look like us and who look like others that says, you know what, I want to do that as well. So from my perspective, I tend to lead from the front. I tend to, when I always meet with my teams, meet with people, just like how we met at an event, and just connected because we have the same passion, people and progress.
Yeah, totally. And so then I know that, the way you talk about your colleagues slash team members, right? Because they report to you, and I saw this in action. But it's like not really, because you feel it, right? The humanity, the relationship, the trust that's there, the respect, the admiration, the empathy, the support. And so circling back to, right, the topic at hand, human centered leadership, how would you define that, or what is it anchored on?
It's all about care, right? It's all about care. Just like when you went to your parents or your grandparents' house, it's always around food, right? Because someone's always hungry, or just great conversations. And a lot of times we find that we can circle around food. We can circle on events that touch the human spirit, whether it be a volunteering event or raising products or food for the needy, right? So everything's around care. And sometimes we have to learn how to, I always tell people this, just be silent and listen. Listen to what this person is about. Learn about them. Don't think about everything you went through a book in college or in school, that's what that really describes that person. Why don't you ask them their experience, right? So everything that I've done, Sammy, is all about listening to whoever that's in my presence, right? Before I can share who I am or what I'm about, I want to hear what they're about, right? What their challenges are. And if I'm allowing them to be authentic and real and honest with me, and I remember that, so next time we come together, I remember that last conversation so I could bring it up. It's not something that just goes through one ear then the other. Human centered perspective, it's about connection, it's about connectivity, right? It's about real be able to relate to them, right? So that's how I run everything that I do from that connection perspective.
Yes, and so then when it's grounded, right, in that interest in the person, the whole person, and really getting to know them deeply and intimately, right? With the good, the bad, and the ugly. And
Yes.
that's okay too, right? Because we're all, about that, right? The good, the bad, and the we all have a little bit of it, right?
Yes.
Um, then that's what really affords you the information to know how to create these teams that you're able to also nurture and grow and invest in, so they can then become human-centered leaders,
Themselves.
human-centered leaders as well. And so
Yeah.
what does that look like in real time? I mean, tell me about an anecdote or circumstance where, without naming names, right, we'll maintain
Yeah.
confidentiality,
Yeah.
right, where you were faced with a team member or someone that was under your purview, right, or under your mentorship, that
Yeah.
a little rough around the edges, maybe not human centered at all, and
Yeah.
that you saw a transformation or were able to um you know be part of
Yeah.
changing or shifting a mindset. And what does that look like?
Absolutely. So, we talk about multiculturalism, right? We also talk about multi generational environment that we work in these days. So that may look like someone basically, has served their country for decades, and what now they have to come and be enculturated into society that's non-military like, and so forth, or someone who has worked in corporate America, whereby it's suit and tie. They have a culture whereby it's jeans and Hawaiian shirts. And then you have
Yeah.
someone straight out of college, right? Straight out of college, maybe at age 21, 22, and they have to come together, right? So there's been situations where you want to rule with a someone may want to rule with an iron hand, iron hammer, iron fist, and just clashing all the time. And so I was able to come in and say, listen, why don't you listen to each other? Why don't you listen to what this generation is about and what that generation, and see what are the things where you can relate to, right? I think in situations like that, when you sit down and really talk with the intent of listening first, not just expressing who you are and what you're about, I think we could have a great success story. And that was the situation here, whereby it became a great success story. The person continues to strive and do well in other areas of the profession, and now able to share more of their personal life. So that connection exists there. It wasn't there before. Just by listening to each generation, each side, and be like, and be wowed by it, right? Be wowed by it. Not saying, oh, my generation was better than this generation. Oh, this generation has no respect. And just be quiet with all that noise, as my son would say, and just listen to each other, what the needs are for that moment. And beautiful things can happen from that.
Yeah, yeah, it's amazing, right? How just
Yeah.
being quiet sometimes can
Yeah.
can yield really, really positive
Result.
results.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, totally. And so we see so much strife in the world, so much need in the world, right? So many leaders that have the titles of leaders, right? And we're like sometimes wondering what in the world is going on,
Yeah.
and so then um as individuals, sometimes we might feel lost or confused, or that our hands are tied, right? I believe in that there's leadership even just in my on my street, right? Like you can exercise leadership in every place that you show up in. And so
Yeah.
what do you feel are some tactics, aside from
Mhm.
talking to each other and making it intentional, because some people just don't want to
Yeah.
engage, right? And so then what are some tactics that you feel could be helpful to create a safe space for conversations to happen?
You probably know this, Sammy, but as you move up the professional ladder, right, your friends or colleagues become very minimal.
Mm.
You can talk at different levels of management, left, right, center, as you go up and you become that single leader of an entire department, of an entire organization. You can become very lonely, right? Who do you turn to for the advice? So I have always believed in having mentors, through every step of the way. Not just professional mentors, but mentors on the outside, like you said, on the street, just being able to talk to someone. You go to the grocery store, if there's a particular cashier that's been there, elderly person, or a bagger that's been there, having simple conversations with them, walking out to the car. That can be a mentor because you could always learn something. I think so. As leaders tend to move around and move up, I think mentorship is key. And don't always think of somebody above you. It could be someone at your level. It can be someone outside of the organization. It can be someone from a different discipline, like sports, right? And because there's a lot to still learn from others out there, things you have never touched on. You can always learn from different avenues. So mentorship has been a big tactic for me. I've always encouraged the folks that report into me as well to get mentors if they need help with that. I would either become one initially or partner with others. So I've always been doing that. My background I have a martial arts background. I have a soccer background. So always from a coaching perspective, I know what that has always meant for someone on the field and off the field as well, right? Even to this date, there are physicians that I know who were my karate students at age 14 that do a phenomenal job out there, but we can still talk, we can still seek advice, right? Can still ask a simple question decades later. So I think mentorship is a great thing for leaders to use as part of their toolkit, right? To be successful, to be grounded, and to be challenged.
Yeah, and to help you figure out how to navigate sometimes difficult conversations too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And all of that. And so as we go into the new year, right? What are some things that we can do as individuals to exercise human-centered leadership aside from listening? Right? I know that I took note, so I already
Yeah.
got number one, listening for sure.
Listening. You know, Sammy, we have to listen to ourselves. We have to be silent with ourselves. I call this my morning walk, my routines. I'm a believer, and so I walk and I have that talk, right? That audible talk, and sometimes saying things out loud for me. That's where I get my centering, right? Something may have been bothering me. I may not be able to talk to my wife about it just yet, because I may be very, very passionate about it. Us Caribbean people, we could be passionate when we speak, right? So
No, no.
right? But I have to sometimes get that out there, go out there, have that talk or whatever, come back, and she'll always say, okay, what God said to you, what Abba said to you. I said,
Mm,
and and then we have that conversation. But I think we have to listen to ourselves, right? I picked up, for example, a hobby. I picked up playing the bass last 4 or 5 months.
mm,
When everything is crazy, when everything is noisy, that's where I retreat to sometimes at the end of the night, middle of the day, and just silent the business and things come to me, right? So as we
mm,
move into 2024, I think the ability to be still, the ability to listen to ourselves, our body, are we a little bit crickety here? Are we drinking enough water? Just kind of like check in on ourselves, right? Put that life jacket on first, right? Put that oxygen mask on us first. Check in with ourselves. How are we feeling? We have all these apps now to check on calmness and our moods and stuff. Check in with yourself before you go try to check in with someone else. So let's do
mm,
that first. Let's check in with ourselves, make sure we're okay, watch our health, watch our eating, right? Getting our exercise, get our mind right, our rest, all those things. So now when we go speak to someone, we're renewed, we're refreshed, we're ready to go. They're like, what the heck is going on with this person? What's going on with Gary here? Well, he's rejuvenated. He took care of himself. Time to relax, recuperate, and be ready. Right? So that's
mhm,
what we need to do as we go into 2024. Be ready for what's out there. If you're a leader, you're responsible for others. How you carry yourself on the job, outside the job, is you're responsible for others. People look up to you, but even without telling you, they look up to you, right?
mm,
Being, like I said, going out, being in front first, people say, "Oh wow, I can be a doctor. Oh wow, here's a person of color, and here they're speaking like this. Oh wow, I thought they want this or whatever it is." But now you have to represent yourself well, and don't be afraid to build your bench strength, build your replacements, right? Build your replacement people because you might want to go do something else. Maybe I want after this, I might want to go start my book, pen my book. I may need to take a
Yeah.
couple of years off, right? You know, God willing. So, things like that, I think really, really helps us be ready for the journey in the future.
Oh, I love that. So then it's listen both ways, right? To others and to yourself.
Yeah.
Then talk to yourself. I like that. I do it all the time, and my husband's always like, "You're talking to me," and I'm like, "No, puppy, I'm not talking to you. I'm just I'm
Right.
processing, right?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So that, but
Yes.
talking to yourself, but it's more than that, right? It's
Yeah.
meditating. It's really
Yeah.
connecting with that
Yeah.
higher, whatever your belief system is, right? With that
Yes.
higher power, to be inspired, to be grounded, to be focused, to be again human centered from within, starting here,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
then I love that idea of also pouring into others so that way you can pass the torch and move on to those things that you're most passionate about. Yes, I love
Absolutely.
that. So, yeah, so that really because it's an investment in humankind when you pour into others, mentor others, and when others pour into you, that mentorship. So I love that. So I guess that when we're talking about human centered leadership, what it sounds to me like it's all about investing time, energy, and resources into building people up. That's basically it, outside and internal as well. Um,
Yeah.
Removing
Absolutely.
all of
Yeah.
those, you know, external things, right? That people oftentimes get hung up on.
Sometimes you can't move them, so go around it, right?
Yeah.
So go around it. You can't move it. You have to learn how to be like water, like Bruce Lee once said, right? Adjust like water, and just be around the form itself. And so a lot of times we can't move things, and we have to jump over it, move around it. From for me, for example, education is huge, healthcare is huge. And there are disparities, right? In education, there's disparities in healthcare. So how can we move the bar forward, right? So we want to make sure that people understand where the gaps are, try to close that. If they don't know or don't want to close it, then you go out there and you try to close it yourself, right? But that
Mhm.
human centeredness, it starts with me, because I want to be the example, right? I can go say all this, write a dissertation or whatever it is, but if you're not living that, why do I need to listen to you? Right? I'm not inspired that way. So you have to lead from the front as much as you're able to, partner with folks as well, and pour in. Absolutely. Because you want to see sometimes we see the fruit here while we're on earth, we may never see it. But if you know you, with good intention, have poured out the good into others, your hope, your prayer is that that really does sprout into something greater, even greater than yourself.
Yes, absolutely. And so while we're bracing ourselves for 2024, because it's going to be an election year too, and we already know what comes with all of that, right? So, people, mi gente, listen to Dr. G. It's time to zip it up, listen to others, to yourself, mentor, have conversations that are meaningful, and meditate. Like really just like zone into deep in within, right? So we can get through this upcoming year, hopefully land right in a better
Yes.
place on the other end than just united and together, understanding that humankind depends on it at this point with all the crazy things that are happening in the world, so any parting advice or hopes that you'd want to send good vibes, right, to our listeners and viewers.
Absolutely. Challenge yourself to learn something new, right? It could be an instrument, or learn something new about a different culture, right? I like I don't like when people just depend upon books to learn about others, right? Have that conversation with someone that doesn't look like you. Challenge yourself, right? That doesn't sound like you. Ask them about themselves. Ask them about their family. Learn. Go that step further. And don't just assume that you are the fulcrum, or you are the focal point of everything. Learn about the people in your community around you, and don't wait to learn about them on the news because something tragic has happened. I think from that perspective of understanding your community is going to help. Learn about your coworkers, right? Not just birthdays and anniversaries, but learn about them. Learn about what they celebrate, why they don't celebrate, without a judgmental mindset, right? So challenge yourself to really learn and continue working on that space. That's the best thing I could stay with leave with anyone. That's what I did. That's what I continuously do in terms of an education perspective. And I love when my teams, new folks come on and I'm like, wow, we have everyone here. Everyone is represented. And I make that effort to go to that site wherever it is to learn about them. It's really, really, really great.
Thank you so much for all of this sound advice and that are really rooted in your lived experiences, and I would love to have you back when your book is out cuz you put
Absolutely,
it
yes.
out there. You
Put
put
it
it
out
out
there.
there.
Put it out there.
You
Yes,
you
I
you put it
I
out
accept
there.
it. Yes,
Yes, totally. You're owning it, right? And
yes.
so thank you so much, Dr. G. Wishing you a wonderful, wonderful holiday season and the most amazing new year.
And likewise, or shall I say, igualmente.
Igualmente. You got it. Thank you.
All right, bless you. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of I Have Something to Say, where subject matter experts are unafraid and unapologetic about sharing their perspectives regarding issues that impact our lives. They speak up because basically they give a shit. So if you're tired of canned answers and want to finally hear real people cut through the BS and talk about real issues, this is the podcast for you. I'm your host, Sami Heyman Marrero from Urbander, and behind our mixer is our producer, Chris Majoka from UdoU.